So I think, understanding sports marketing is understanding marketing. See, sports itself is not its own specific content. So someone that was good at marketing toothbrushes, I think would know how to market sports as well, because they know how to capture content, modify it, amplify it, and perpetuate it. The only advantage in sports marketing of knowing sports is your relationship capital. So one of the big advantages why I got involved in sports, because I'm more a technology person, was that through Leigh Steinberg, I knew I would develop relationships at the highest level with owners, teams, leagues, organizations, and athletes and celebrities, which then I can utilize all the years of the marketing skills and knowledge that I had towards something that I really desired or I was passionate about, which was sports. I was way more passionate about sports than I was cell phones. But the marketing techniques that I utilize are the same ones I'd utilize today if I was launching a telephone.
Yeah, how do you think your relationships with, like, let's say, CEOs and like high-level executives changes, like, versus like, like high-profile athletes? Because
so it's interesting because of social media today, I think that training people how to ask is as important as who you're asking. So I think, C-level executives have more decision-making power, more sponsorship power, more power sponsorship power, and they're easier to address because they want to help. See, less people are out there asking CEOs because they're all too nervous to ask them for help, mentorship, where athletes, they're approached in two ways. One, to do business like a CEO, but a lot of times just to take a picture, do an appearance, show up, or whatever it is. So, a lot of it is literally putting the time in and consistent behavior. People ask me, from building my brand, the difference. I think my superpower is that, one, I have a lot of experience compared to most people in the digital, influencer world. So I have a lot of dummy tax because I'm not some 25-year-old, right? Hey man, I've been around the block. How you doing? Good. More importantly, I'm consistent. Right? Like, I don't fool myself. I call it a test and go philosophy. Like, I know that I have no idea what works on digital media except for doing it every day.
You've got a discipline. It's like, on this day you're going to do this, and this day you've got a discipline.
And it keeps growing, right? Because I keep creating more. Yeah, and so I start with one show and then more people want to do shows, and because I know how long I can do them, who can do them, it also helps me because a lot of people that want to do shows with me, they'll bring the guests now. So because I know where the majority of the time, now we also, because of the popularity, have hundreds of people requesting to interview me, to put on interviews, and so I have all these choices to put people. But I would tell people, if they say, what do you attribute your success for? I'm probably the most consistent of any of the bigger name people. Nobody else does lives every day. Nobody else has shows every day. It does as many podcasts as I have podcasts here, Sports Entertainment, 3 times a week, and 7 days a week, the Entrepreneur Podcast. That's 10 of, one podcast, let alone office hours, 2-minute drill. Wait, what? How many episodes of this have we done? 1,010. We didn't celebrate 1,000?
So I had John.
Something in advance, I didn't see it.
You know John Lee.
Yeah, very well.
So I had him on my show. He's done 3,300 episodes.
He
did like an episode a day for 10 years. Just absolutely.
Yeah, I started a lot later than those guys, and but I think since I've started, I've done the most.
Yeah, like a catch-up.
Yeah, and if you add in how many office hours have we done?
3 days a week for the last year and a bit. 290. We just did 291 today.
290 on all 3 of them.
Yeah, 291 today.
And then lives, we don't know how many lives. Even like Craig Siegel, I have like 50. So I might be at 2,000 total of all the different titles I have. But consistency, if I was your age and I wanted to get in this game, I would just start doing something every day, even if I had nobody following me. Because if you got 2 people this next year, 2022, if you only had 2 people say, I love Tom, I love everything Tom does, and he tells 2 more people a year, and they tell 2 more people a year, how old are you?
I'm 21.
21. Yeah. I'm 54 next week, January 11th. So I got, my math's good, 23 years. 23 years. Take 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, 23 times. You'll be more popular than Gary Vee.
No.
You will. Just 2 people at a time.
that's-
As long as you have the capability of convincing 2 people a year to tell 2 people to watch your stuff.
No, absolutely. That's something we found really recently with our company. Like, we started ramping up our social media, and I mean, a lot of it's so much about the algorithm that if you just keep pumping out the quality, it gets into search. And
Yeah.
you really do see the metrics right there. But
You just don't know what the algorithm. See, worrying about the algorithm is like worrying about the changes that are going to happen tomorrow.
it's just high quality.
Like
High
what
quality.
I worry about what I have control of. I have control of my content, my guests, the editing, the caption. I have control of the color. I have control of all that. Just like in change in life, I have control of my mindset. I control what meaning I give things. I control my heart set, how I feel about it, which is more and more important to me than it ever has. And then I'm controlled in what I do. So why is feeling so much important to me now than it used to be? Is, I studied Goddard, Course in Miracles. The subconscious mind works with emotions. That's why people remember the way they feel when they're with you, not what you said. So I'm working a lot in the context of the subconscious mind, of the way that I feel. So if I want something in my life, I used to put, what I think, say, do, and believe into it, and I do my mantras and say, I want the minimum of $1 million the next month or whatever it was. Now I take it the next step, and I'm actually feeling what it's going to feel like as if it's already done, and it really works. It's the same thing about putting energetic intention into liquid. So like every time I drink water or grapefruit juice or something that's natural, I put my intentions into it. I actually tell the water what I want because I'm 80% water at least. And I'm putting those intentions into me, grounded by the earth, connected to the higher power. And statistically, I'm becoming a conduit to the abundance of the world. The things that I do, they work for me. Usually they're free. They don't take very long to do. Right, like saying thank you.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm teaching coherence with people because people don't remember what to do and they don't do it. So think about thank you. Go 100 people walk by you, say, hey, do you think saying thank you will change your life for the better or the worse? 100% of the people will say absolutely the better, but yet they won't do it. I forget to say thank you. Jake forgot to say thank you when he left the table because he's all stressed out about a business transaction, and he left the table without saying thank you. Now, that's coherence. How ingrained is saying thank you? Yeah, remembering and doing are the 2 things. So I actually create a practice of remembering what I want and doing it. Yeah. Who I can help, who can help me, how to get it done, creating better and better strategies for productivity, how much value, accessibility, how accessible am I, and how gracious am I? How much am I remembering and actually saying thank you and feeling it as well?
Yeah, but thank you. I appreciate the time.
All right, thanks for hang out if you want to learn more.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
How you doing, man?
Good, man.
Good to see you.
Great to see you. Got a question for me?
Yeah, man, for sure. Definitely. And today's society and economics and how it's changing with COVID-19, thinking about long-term investment, like at today's time, let's say I'm your son, and like, man, what am I
You
gonna
could
do
be.
for my son? You know what I'm saying?
How old are you?
You see me every time. But what advice? Long-term, short-term, Bitcoin, what do you prefer? Money?
Yeah.
Value the money's disappearing. So
Yeah, so this is a really important question because you got blockchain, NFT, crypto, you have dollars, gold, silver. These are called currencies. They're all objects of energy that you put into the flow to get what you want. They're actually objects of energy. Determining where you want to put your investment, all investments, including investment in yourself, including education, including your time as an investment, your emotions are an investment. There's only 2 things that you really have to determine: timing and risk tolerance. Then you have to find someone that knows about gold, silver, dollars, crypto, NFTs, and figure out, okay, here's my timing and risk tolerance, right? I want this much to invest, and my return should be in 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, for my great-grandkids, 1,000 years, whatever. Once you have figured out an acceptable timing and risk tolerance, you'll always be satisfied if you get a credible source to tell you, hey, this Matrix NFT, here's the risk of it. You got a 10% chance of it being worth what you're going to pay for it. And the return on investment will be either sell it in the short term in the first week you'll know, or it might be 100 years from now. whatever it is, that investment now that is aligned with your timing and risk tolerance, as long as that's true, you'll be satisfied, even if you lose your money. So the lottery was at 522 million yesterday. Well, I know the timing and risk tolerance of my $2. It's about 1 billion to 1. So when I didn't win the lottery with my $2 that I did for fun, I got exactly what I wanted. I got the excitement of going and looking at the tickets for $2 and saying, oh, got my timing and risk tolerance. It was 1 billion to 1. I didn't win. I wasn't upset that someone oversold me, lied to me, cheated me, manipulated me, because I knew my timing and risk tolerance. I backed it up with credible information, and it met my expectations. So, you know, trust everyone, but vet the crap out of it, and vet it to the purpose of aligning with your timing and risk tolerance of whatever the investment you make, including education, right? So many people ask Gary Vee and I, should I go to college? Gary didn't go to college, right? I went to law school, business school, college. I come from an extremely academic family. But I believe everyone should be educated, and so does Gary. It's where do you want to get your education aligned with your timing and risk tolerance? Is it St. John's University, Harvard, Occidental, Tulane, or is it YouTube, Gary Vee, David Meltzer, you know, or somebody else? I'm all for it. But if you're not learning every day, right? If you're not doing your best learning lessons and having fun every day, you're missing the point of the activity you get paid for. You're missing the point of the activity you don't get paid for. You're not utilizing your time effectively with productivity, accessibility, and gratitude. Perfect. Question? Oh, cool. Well, we appreciate you, man. You don't got to tip me. You got a question? Matt, you got a question? Yeah? No? Matt, you got a question?
Yeah. How can someone get in the practice of saying things, like just becoming more grateful overall, being more gracious?
Yeah, so I think I take a step further back and not just saying thankful. I have a 14-day gratitude challenge, not to teach people to say thank you. What I'm doing is teaching people the importance of coherence, right? Can you get into the habit of having habits? Can you get into the habits of remembering what you want, personally, experientially, giving and receiving wise? Can you get in the habit of knowing who I can help with what I want or who can help me? Can I get into the habit of knowing how best to effectuate what I want and who I can help and who can help me? And then the key component or the proof of understanding how this works, coherence, of saying thank you, is prioritization. Is it a non-negotiable in your life? Meaning that you put it before everything else? Do you wake up and say thank you? Do you go to bed and say thank you? It's a non-negotiable priority, because prioritization, if you're able to prioritize during your day, the activity you get paid for, activity you don't get paid for, activity you have planned, activity you don't have planned, or even your sleep, if you're able to prioritize those things, then you're actually knowing that you have direction of coherence. Because prioritization is the antidote to procrastination. It's also the antidote to being overwhelmed. So many people feel overwhelmed. Why? Because they're actually living in abundance. Most people that feel overwhelmed are living in a world of more than enough. There's more than enough to do, more than enough to buy, more than enough options in their life, so they feel overwhelmed. Their bigger problem isn't feeling overwhelmed. The bigger problem is prioritization. They don't have a system to prioritize what's important to them. Why? Because in order to know what's important to you, you got to know what you want, who you can help you, and how to get it done. Urgency itself in the prioritization process, as Eisenhower's talks, is a subset to importance. It's not the importance itself. And so we get caught up by creating interference between what we want and what actually already exists. So I take the perspective, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, I'm worthy. My free will is spent, what am I doing to interfere with it? Not trying to go get happy, healthy, wealthy, and worthy. And when you can shift the paradigm and perspective that you have, you'll see that there's so much more in living in this world that keeps tempting you, keeps calling you. Hey, you feel overwhelmed. Why? Because there's so much more you can have. Figure out prioritization, right? That's why I created the New Day resolutions, because people, they look for New Year's resolutions, they don't last. But if you take into consideration New Year's resolutions, midterm goals, 4, 10, 15 years, or long-term goals, your lifetime, or 50 years from now, long-term, if you take those into consideration and then only focus in on what you can get done today with the 24 hours activity that you've been given, you'll be so much more productive, accessible, and gracious with your time. Accessibility is 2 parts. It's not just being accessible to all of you every single day, but it's accessing what I want. The majority of your problem is you don't ask for what you want, and you feel guilty or not worthy of it. You feel bad when you receive. And the reason you feel bad for asking for help or asking someone for something, the reason you feel bad is you think the universe is zero sum. You think that if I ask, that means someone has to lose. If I receive, someone else has to lose. See, that's not the universe. It's proven scientifically, physically, metaphysically, and quantum physically, the universe is expanding. Watch any National Geographic science show. It'll talk about the universe is expanding. What does that mean? When you ask to receive, you're adding on to the universe. You're not taking anything away from anyone. So there's no reason to feel guilty, bad, offended, resentful, what other feelings that I had throughout my career that hindered me from asking for what I want and getting what I wanted. Now my perspective is opposite. I challenge myself, infinity plus one. You know, as big as I can think, I then try to think bigger. I tell the story about Bezos, right? You know, in his garage 25 years ago. And I try to challenge myself to be an Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos or a Richard Branson, because these are expansive thinkers that believe in an expansive value add, yeah.
So you were in a corporate then, he was like in a garage startup.
Yeah, he was doing Amazon, he was selling books online.
So you kind of switched, haven't you? Because you come out of corporate, you
right.
do entrepreneurial stuff, and he's like running a massive corporate now.
Yeah, the massive corporation, yeah. But he had a much bigger mindset than I had.
Yeah.
Right, like for me, it was just to be rich to buy my mom a house and a car, right? And
when you get there, you go, what's next?
Yeah, and I didn't ask for help on how to get there. He,
right.
You know, believe it or not, Elon Musk and Jeff, they ask for a lot of help. They hire all these amazing people that know about things that I don't know about. And that's why, you know, I encourage everyone to find
like
someone.
The guy that's $1 trillion coach, Bill, the guy that's
Yeah.
coaching the Google guy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I became a coach like that, right? I'm coaching some of the top entrepreneurs and CEOs in the world, chairmen of multi-billion-dollar corporation, where the decisions that they make, you know, a bad decision costs millions, let alone sometimes even more. So understanding mindset harder. Yeah, Bill?
So a lot of times you work for something, you know, where you're the person behind the person, and if you stick with it, if you believe in the process, there's like a time frame where you see it going. But when's the transition point where you sort of have to, like, if you don't want to be that person behind the person, you want to like transition, and like the balance of when to make that move versus when to stay patient.
So that's why I have daily inventory of my values, because I assess that by the day, and I assess it by my timing and risk tolerance. I assess it by the opportunity and options that I have. But normally I focus in on what I am doing today to get better at it, so that I have more options and opportunities, so that someday when I'm looking at my daily inventory, I say, you know what? The better opportunity, aligned with my timing and risk tolerance, is to start my own business, and not only to raise your awareness of what you're doing to interfere with the unlimited, but also have an identity of that opportunity or option. So many people, if you ever read Michael Singer's Surrender Experiment, he sold his company for $1 billion. He's a classic example of someone that not only is aware of getting out of his own way of what he was doing to interfere with it, but he was keenly aware of people coming in, patterns coming in, opportunities coming into his life in order to facilitate going down that path of options and opportunities, while he's taking daily mindful activity of knowing what he wants today, taking into consideration his New Year's resolutions, his intermediate resolutions, his long-term resolutions, taking into consideration those, but making decisions, okay, according to all of those, here's what I want, who I can help, who can help me, how best to get that done, prioritizing by that, and then applying his why to clear the interference and attract more opportunity. That, you know, I'll give you an example of what that would look like, by the way. So in his book, he talks about, you know, he ends up getting this property on accident, building his house on accident, all these things. Well, meanwhile, he came home and there's a sheriff waiting outside his house. Now his mindset was, oh shit, what did I do? You know, and he drives up, and he's a hippie at the time. It's the 70s. He has no shoes on, ponytail, jeans. He's in Central Florida in Gainesville, where he's not quite accepted. Michael Singer from his Surrender Experiment.
All right,
So anyway, this is amazing. So he drives up, and he's totally tentative, and he, you know, walks up barefooted. He's like, yes, sir. He said, is this your property? I said, yes, sir. You know, how can I help you? And he said, I just love it. My wife and I are building a house down the street. You know, would you build my house for me? And he starts this multi-million dollar construction business from this awareness, right? And he didn't take his personal preference or judgment of how he's going to move forward. What's up, KJ?
Hey, Dave. What's going on, man?
How you doing? Good to see you. So he didn't take his own personal preference, right? He went ahead and allowed the universe to give him an opportunity, seek it out, and figure out. And he did the same thing in software. He went to Radio Shack in the 70s, and there was I forget the brand that they had, that T whatever, and he had never seen a computer at the time. And so he started playing on the computer, and he just was love at first sight. He recognized the way he felt. So he went back and he ended up buying it a different day and ended up learning how to code. That ended up being his multi-billion-dollar business. You know, he had an accounting degree originally that he resisted. He had accounting software, became a big reseller, and it went on and on and on until he sold his company for $1 billion. But if he wasn't aware of the options and opportunities, he wouldn't be a billionaire.
Yeah, and I think just to follow up,
Please.
I think we're all presented these big bet on yourself moments, and I just asked for like some what those looked like to you. So like, or what piece of advice, because you really do have to bet big, but I think we're given this.
You can hedge. So I'm someone that believes you can hedge. Let me give you an example. And he's someone that hedged. When I got out of law school, I come from a hyper academic family, very culturally, like Harvard, Penn, Columbia, doctor, lawyer, failure. So to please my mom, I go to law school, I do very well. I end up getting a job as an oil and gas litigator. But there's always something in me that kept my options open, because I was motivated. I want to buy my mom a house and a car. I wanted to be rich because I grew up so poor. So I get this job offer because I have my option open to sell in 1992, legal research online. Well, everything told me outside of what I believed, don't do it. But I took the internet job not just because I felt like it was a better opportunity, but more importantly, I had a hedge against it, right? I went and took the bar still, right? I took the bar, I took the job, I also made sure I did my best at it. I learned lessons, I created all these systems to do well, but if I made the wrong, quote unquote, which I don't believe anymore, there's wrong choices. If I made the choice that wasn't good for me, I bet you I would have learned lessons and it would have made me a better lawyer, but I already hedged my bet. I didn't just stupidly say, oh, I want to sell on the internet. I'm not going to graduate law school because I don't need a law degree. I'm not going to take the bar because I don't need the bar. I completed top of my class, did very well in law school. Then I completed the bar and passed that. I didn't have to. So I think it's important for people to realize that we live in the pragmatic world. And if you're going to take those leaps, it's okay to have a backup. But the real entrepreneur, in my opinion, can work plan A like there's no plan B. See, a lot of people will get a plan A and a B like I had, but will never work the plan A like they don't have a plan. See, I grew up with nothing, so I know what it's like to have nothing and to work that way, all in. So although I had other options, I went all in.
Yeah, and I guess I'm just really, most of the world, you're gonna get a lot of doubters, and like you listen to your instinct. And I guess it's also betting on yourself, but any advice on silencing the noise?
Yeah, so first of all, you don't ever want to do what, you don't want to focus in on what's missing, what you don't want, or what other people want for you. Everyone's welcome to give me advice, which means they care about me. For whatever reasons, they care enough to give me advice, I'm listening, but I usually use advice like a handful of sand. I thank them for it, appreciate that they care enough about me, but I let it fall through my hands because I know my values, right? I know what I want, and if it's not aligned with what I want, who I can help, who can help me, and how the best I can get it done and in my priority and non-negotiables, then I let it fall away from me. So I'm very present about people telling me, oh, internet, my mom literally told me the internet's a fad. My mom was my #1 mentor. I also look at the credibility of mentorship, meaning too many people take mentorship or advice or counsel from people that don't know shit. First of all, most people don't know what they don't know anyway, but you know, my mom had never even been in business. She was a second grade teacher. She filled turnstiles up at the 7-Eleven with greeting cards. What does she know about the internet or business? Why was I taking business advice from her? Right, I take parenting advice from her still today. Why? Because she's proven to me she has credibility as a parent. So I listen to everyone's advice. I just let most of it fall through my hand if it's not aligned with what I want, who I can help, and how to best get it done. And then I prioritize accordingly the advice that I'm giving according to the what, the who, and the how, which allows me to clear all that fear, interference that, oh, nobody thinks I can do this. Let me tell you something about nobody thinks you can do this. Nobody gives a fuck. That's the difference. It's not that they don't think you can do it, it's that they don't really care, and so it's just easier to tell you that you can't do it because they can do it. But they don't care. They don't care. They legitimately do not care if you do it or if you don't. As much as I applaud Jeff Bezos, truth is it doesn't affect my life at all how successful he is or if he would have failed. And we take this personally that, oh, my mom wants the best. No, my mom wants me to be happy, healthy, appreciate her, and love her. It doesn't matter if I'm rich or poor, tall or short, whatever. And the same with everyone else. No one gives a flying about your business success. So you need to focus in on what you want, because you should care about what? Consistently, persistently pursuing your potential and enjoying that pursuit. Because then you're happy, more likely healthy, more likely wealthy and worthy when you do that.
Appreciate you sharing your wisdom.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate you. Time for one more question? Yeah, go ahead.
Why is it that we need to forgive ourselves before we can forgive others?
Well, first, just generally, you can't give what you don't have. So you got to learn to love yourself, forgive yourself. You know, I spent years trying to get everyone to love me, and nobody would. But when I learned to love myself, everybody wanted to love me. I spent years trying to ask for forgiveness without forgiving myself. You can't give what you don't have. It's a frequency, what you have. Remember, even a currency of money, you can't give what you don't have. It's an object of energy that you put into the flow to get what you want. So forgiving yourself is critical. I have so many of my clients that do dumb things, and they want, a spouse, a business partner, associate to forgive them because they're human and they said something stupid or did something stupid. And I tell them, stop asking for forgiveness, stop saying you're sorry, just forgive yourself. Change your own energy. Tell yourself, I'm doing my best, I'm learning lessons, I've learned a lesson. Make a commitment to yourself not to do it again. Don't stumble on the roadblocks behind you. Know that you are in the majority, meaning 100% of the people. I know some guy got all frustrated in a video I did because I said everyone makes mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, so everyone needs to forgive themselves for making those mistakes. 100% of the people, Mr. I don't like you to use the word everyone makes mistakes. So know that you're in the majority when you make a mistake, and also know that that's the process of learning, that pain, mistakes, failures, and setbacks are an indicator you have a better place to be. More and more as I get older, I live by, there's something bigger than me that loves me more than my mom loves me, or I love my own children. Once I believe that, and I do the majority of the time, not 100% of the time, I have doubts and fears and like anybody else, but when I remind myself, remember and recollect what I'm connected to and through, all the mistakes, failures, setbacks, and pain, I'm thinking to myself, this is just promoting me, this is protecting me. Somebody asked today on the live about young entrepreneurs, like, how do I get over this breakup? I'm all, just consider it like putting your hand on a stove when you were 3 and your mom slapping the back of your hand and screaming at you. No, don't do that. And you crying, going, why are you punishing me? Breaking up with that girl or guy is not punishment. Same way my mom was protecting me, I believe the higher source is protecting me, promoting me to someone better, or it's going to make that situation better, meaning same person that broke up with me is now going to acquire some knowledge about the relationship and change and make that relationship better. This is the truth. And the more that you have that faith and the more statistically you act upon that faith, you're going to end up pragmatically in a far better place. In other words, protected at all times and promoted at all times. I promise you, you are protected at all times and promoted at all times. The more you believe that and understand that, the more that will be your reality. You will give that meaning to yourself. That's why I have the thankful, gratitude challenge, is because that's a conduit or coherence of believing there's a better place, a better situation than I should be in. Everything's in between infinity and limitlessness. Everything's expanding.